All right, we're back. If you watched the first episode, you already know what we're up to. This is Relax and Take Notes, the Untitled Podcast 3-part conversation on hip hop and culture. I am your host. My name is Toso, but I go by many names. My co-host and guest, his name is Justin Clark. You can find him on the interwebs at jclarkreel. That's REEL. Again, last week we talked about the commercial side. This week we're talking about the political side. Next week we're going to go into the future of hip hop, so that should be interesting. I hope you join us for that as well. But in the meantime, relax, take notes, sit back, and hit the share button, comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, so that the algorithm knows that you rock with us. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Untitled Podcast. Enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another episode of the Untitled Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you. Today we're going to keep on with this conversation we started last week with the hip hop and culture. And I don't know, man, last week's conversation was really good. Just to give a brief overview, we talked about the impact of rap music on society in terms of its violence, but also its positive attributes. We also talked about appreciation versus appropriation. And then finally, we got a little bit around the commercialization aspect of rap. So if you want to go check that out, please do. I'll go ahead and link that video in the description. But today we're going to move on a little bit. So Jay Clark, how you doing today, bro? We're going to talk a little bit about political activism.
Yeah, good, man. It's been a good week. You know, same old on my end. How things been kicking over there in the UK?
It's been cheerio, top flight. Things going well. We're over here. We're doing our thing. I think the kids just got off half term, so the streets is busy again. Half term is in like a break. They have more breaks in the UK school system, so they don't have like one long summer break. They have like 5 or 6 breaks during the school year that are all like 2 weeks long. So it's interesting. I think it's actually probably better just because you forget everything over the summers anyway, but that's for another conversation, another podcast. Today, let's get into what we talked about. What exactly is hip hop in regards to political activism? So I'm going to toss this one up to you, and then we'll kind of get into this conversation because I think it's an important one.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
We spoke on it a little bit last week about how hip hop is it's a perspective of revolt or an example of revolt. And I think that leads directly into politics. A lot of the emergence of hip hop, especially in different cultures, like hip hop originates from Black American culture. That's no secret. But when you see hip hop pop up in different countries from different cultures, it's typically in a form of revolt or going against their current paradigm. So typically when it's
a
used
way
in
of
politics,
speaking truth to power.
Yeah, when it's used in politics, especially in the emerging hip hop markets, I typically see it like they got some stuff going on over there and somebody's being outspoken about it.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I think one person who's kind of changed the way rap activism is seen too is, ironically enough, Chicago rapper Chance the Rapper. I think he's an interesting case study of somebody who is not only politically aware. His dad worked for the Obama administration, so he has a level of insight into the political. Yeah. So his pops was one of the people that was working under the Obama administration when he was the president. And so his son comes out of this, not necessarily, I don't want to say elitist, but he definitely comes from the higher end of the spectrum. If we're talking about Black people in Chicago, he's been privy to information and access that maybe other people have not been. And so I think he's using it in the correct way in that he expresses this struggle. He expresses his dissatisfaction with the state of things in Chicago, but he also, he has like a nonprofit that he runs, right, with social works. He does a lot of events and stuff. Like he just hosted one in Ghana at the beginning of this year with Vic Mensa, where they did they call the Black Star event. They want to make it an annual thing where they bring all these folks to. My fault. Folks is out here wilding in the UK.
I see.
But no, man, I think it's one of those things where it's an interesting way to combine what is supposed to be on one hand a form of entertainment, but then on the other hand, we're talking about something that people are plugged into. They are listening to these words, and these words are affecting them. Politics, a simple definition, is who gets what and how they get it. Who gets what and how they get it. So if I wanted to have some access, or I wanted to have some pardon, or whatever it might be, it's the question of how I'm going to leverage my current connections in order to get that thing. What hip hop does is it injects this realness into the equation to where it becomes less and less about what kind of connections you have and more about how skilled you are. It's the natural progression of when we talk about actual hierarchies. Like, this is an actual, and not a hierarchy in a sense of this person is not able to be accessible to me, but one in terms of the people who are actually able to speak truth in the most effective way have the biggest platform. It's like the NFL. It's a competition. The best is supposed to rise to the top. I think that that's the ideal version of hip hop and politics. But what happens is, with the commercialization side, you get big injections of money into things that maybe aren't real. And so instead of being real, we have, people that are playing characters in order to market themselves in this world. And that's where we get into some issues. I don't know what you think about that, but
And that's what makes hip hop so great, but also so dangerous. Is that it's music, it's art, it's an open playing field for anyone to say whatever they want. And in places where people maybe are marginalized and they get to a point where, they have to push back and they express it in that form, it's just so much that can, think about it, anyone can hop up on a mic, like, to a beat and say anything. But
yeah,
those type of things that go against, the paradigm we always go back to, they're not going to be pushed out to the public necessarily. The media is not going to pick it up and push it. Like, someone has to have a big enough following and, you know, notability
it's,
themselves to even get to that point for it to be seen. But also in present day, that's what makes hip hop music in general another level of danger, because there is no, as J. Cole once said, there will be no celebrities in 100 years. Like, every city has its rapper at this point. Every city, because the city I come from has its rapper. Every city has its rapper. Like, small, big, large. It's just a matter of how big can that artist get? What's their message? And then there's everybody else who's still on the mic. Like, there's no limitation to hip hop at this point. Somebody gonna say something.
I think you make a really good point, because ultimately what we are trying to do is make it so people can speak. Like, I don't think that we spoke a little bit last week about gatekeeping and what it means to have somebody who is actually an authentic member of the culture helping disseminate the culture. But I think what we might actually get to is, what if we have a place where people are, like you say, every city has its rapper, but I don't know. Is it going to get to a point where there's one rapper to rule them all type of thing, like a Thanos type
I
of?
don't think so, because it's like, literally, when I say every city has its rapper, it doesn't even,
Yeah.
if you're the best rapper in your city, you're gonna
But
have
that's
some
just
sort of
present.
notability,
But that's just right now. Think about when that Kendrick Control verse came out. And
hmm
he literally put everybody on blast. He said, "I'm the king of New York, the king of the coast, two hands, I juggle them both," or whatever he said. And he calls out all these rappers. He's
That
thinking
was
in
hard.
terms of, it was hard, bro. And he's thinking in terms of not just what's hot now, not what's hot for a summer, not what's hot for a year, not what's even hot for a decade. He was thinking in terms of centuries. I think. I think some people, some rappers, like, I think like Ye is one of those dudes who understands that he's speaking not just as a member of this moment, but like when he came out with Power, the hook on that song is 21st Century Schizoid Man. And it's like, when that, it's like kind of mumbled. It's like, 25 cents for this kid, son, man. He's literally, he's like, I am representing the crazed individual from this moment in history, and the future anthropologists and historians will have to mark somebody from this moment who's going to be the Shakespeare of this time. And I think this is what people are fighting over. Who's going to tell the story of what's happening now?
Who made the fuck Donald Trump song?
Oh, that's YG.
YG, right?
Yeah.
He had his own come up. He's from LA. YG was big. He wasn't big. He wasn't huge, but people knew of YG.
They still
But
do.
when he made that song, national, instant, national recognition. Like that's what I kind of mean by there's every city has its rapper, every borough has its rapper. So there's so many people doing this art form as it's related to politics, to a marginalized people. Eventually, somebody is gonna say something. Like it's just it is what it is. And then you get the NWAs and you get eventually the Tupacs. You just get people moving against the paradigm. Back to Eminem and his whole little rant, his the cipher he did with BET.
Yeah,
things gonna happen. It's a perfect. It's just I love it, man. I ain't gonna lie. The art form that, and then what eventually comes out from that, as it relates to politics, is one of the only ways that you can be heard. Without any rules and regulations involved. There's backlash, but there's no
rap is a
static,
competitive sport, man. Rap is a competitive sport, and I think that's why there's so much potential for growth, is because it's a competitive. Like every single businessman knows that it's competition that makes a product better. Man. It's that thing that pushes you, and so ultimately, rap is just this cauldron of competition of people who want to make it, quote unquote, out, and they are all fighting for position to speak truth to some seed of whatever in their lives that they can then export to the masses. Let me take whatever thing I have in my own, and that's why it's important to keep that seed of truth, because when it starts deviating to what is commercially viable, then you lose what was appealing about rap in the first place, which was his ability to tell the truth, because everything is inherently political. People say, stop politicizing this, stop politicizing that. What they really mean is, stop offending me, or I don't want to hear about it right now. Because everything is inherently political. I think that when rap starts to speak truth, then it becomes a weapon for good instead of evil. Because it's going to be political, but how it's used politically is what's going to matter at the end of the day. And that's, just my opinion, obviously. But I feel like at the end of the day, how we use the rap is what's more important than the actual rap itself, if that makes sense. But not to linger too long on this point, it kind of goes into the next point, too. How we use gender in rap, or not use, but view gender in rap. Because at the end of the day, we are living through a gender revolution. Without stepping on nobody's toes, we're living through a time where people have different ways of identifying. And if you do not at least understand the lay of the land, then you will stand on a minefield. Let's just say that. And so, with that being said, how do we even speak any sort of truth in this day and age where it seems like the truth is almost being stated already? I don't know. Like, there's like a lot of women rappers, but not too many that you would call politically conscious. I mean, you think of like a Lauryn Hill, right? Or you think of like there's not too many Lauryn Hills. That's the problem. Like they all are over sexualized today. And maybe that's just me. Like, you got No Name, you got like some people who really understand what they own, but that's rare, few and far between.
I wonder what that is too. It's not like media cool to be a Lauryn Hill until you are Lauryn Hill. Like, it's not cool to be a conscious woman until you are of some notability. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't say it's not cool or uncool. It's just not as popular as being.
It's not as marketable.
A city girl, yeah. A city.
It's not as marketable, yeah. Like it's a lot easier to be, Flo Milli than or somebody who has a like the raps about their sex appeal,
Yeah.
than it is to be somebody who raps about repairing relationships
wonder
and
who
holding
they're
down the
selling to
home.
though. They're selling to women, I guess.
They're selling other women, bro. You seen that new Sierra single? She's saying this is for my girls that are INDEPENT like me. Meanwhile, she got a whole husband at the crib. They selling lies. They selling what they not a part of, because at the end of the day, they gotta keep black women thinking that, you know who spends the most amount of money?
So are the men.
So the men, but you know who spends the most money as a demographic? And this
Who that?
isn't like dogging anybody. Single black women. They spend the most money.
I don't
And
surprise
so
me.
if they are single, then that is a better play for the economy at large. Would you not say? Who has control of the economy at large? There's a direct incentive to keep black women single, is all I'm saying. And when you see these themes pushed in the music, you have to stop and think, is this a genuine truth that is being pushed? Or is this a commercially incentivized perspective for me to stay in my whatever mindset that I'm in right now?
That's
Because I
100%
think
true.
love is a powerful thing. And black love is a very powerful thing because it usually has gone through a lot. And so they don't want that to become any sort of, I don't know, norm in our culture. P.S. Go Bears.
I'm gonna say though, the men. Hey, shout out to them. Shout out Jay Fields.
It's about to be a crazy off season. Go ahead.
What you said is 100% true. 100% true. But the also 100% truth is men do the same thing in music and in rap. You know what I mean? Like, they're not in the streets no more. A lot of the time. I ain't gonna say most of the time. I ain't gonna say all the time, but they're not in the streets a lot of the time, and they're still pushing that same agenda. Like,
so what do you think about people like 6ix9ine? Do you think that he's a clown for doing what he does, or do you think that he has a part to play? Because he's calling out the folks. It's
I don't like
thing.
mentioning Rainbow Head's name. I don't even like mentioning this. Dude's a clown. He's a clown in hip hop. He's a mascot in hip hop. Hip hop is an industry, and it's a game.
I think that's interesting, though.
He's a mascot.
I think he has he is a mascot. I'm not going to argue with that. But I think he is a self-professed mascot. And I think that what he is doing, it's a very weird play. He's not dumb. I don't think he's stupid. I think that he
Cardi
is very...
B's a mascot. I think Cardi B's a mascot. I think 6ix9ine's a mascot. I think Nicki Minaj is the most popular mascot of all time.
So what do you mean by mascot?
They're not real artists. They're not real rappers, bro.
They're presenting a different agenda, or they're like a cheerleaders or something else.
They're entertainers now. They get other people's music and they spit it, but they're just pawns in the industry. They bring popularity, you know. They make the fans come for the real artists. But
would you say everybody's a pawn or nobody? Like who would you say is a real artist?
That's just my personal opinion. But real artists would be like the Nas's, you know, Nas, Cole, you know, Chance. These are real artists, but the industry. I'm speaking of the industry. This is no individual person. I'm speaking of what the industry of hip hop needs and what it is and what it's been historically. It needs these little pawn characters that just keep it afloat, like the beast of hip hop. Between labels, independent artists, general popularity, radio play, in the span of hip hop music, you need these little mascots that keep people's attention. Nicki Minaj just happened to freaking blow up. I ain't gonna go into it, but she just happened to blow up. You know what I mean? I say she turned on it, but
hey,
you know,
she set the playbook for a lot of what's going on today. Like she was like John Madden,
I don't want to disrespect it. If she writing, if she in the closet writing, I just doubt it. I think she got the surgery.
Oh, you think it's ghost writing?
Of course.
Interesting. Maybe. Look. I don't really go in. I think that the one person I will say that is pretty collectively agreed upon is like the Drake. But that's because he's not even Drake a person anymore. He's Drake a corporation. He's Drake an entity. He's a corporate entity.
But that's to say that any hit has been made with one person. I used to think that way. But any hit record.
Nah, okay, yeah, not like that. She's not doing that by herself, but nobody is, bro.
I don't think she's writing 100. I think she's getting music from people
Maybe.
that's
I
passionate
think
to
she's a
like.
writer, bro. I think her pen game is strong. That's just me though. I personally feel like Nicki Minaj is one of the greatest female rappers to do it, and I just kind of threw it out of like I didn't put it with the Lauryn Hill because obviously that's not the market she appeals to. Personally, I just feel like she has this she has
Was
a
she
fire in
spitting
her.
before she was with a label? That's the real question. Was she spitting before she was with a label? Because she came into a label and then she got bars. That means that they were given to her. She didn't become a rapper overnight. You know,
She
she
was
didn't
signed
become
by
a rapper.
Wayne. That's got to mean something.
Hey, look, man. You get a girl, you give her surgery, you make her look good, you give her some words, say this, say that, look
We
good
gonna
while
get off
doing it.
topic.
Hey, man, that's what I'm saying.
Hey,
This
but I
hip hop.
feel you.
It's the industry.
It's
There's nothing
true.
wrong with it. It's the industry. Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it. It's the WWE, baby. You know what I mean? Hip hop is the WWE. Like,
Who's the Undertaker?
ooh, I almost said M, but I mean,
Ooh, okay. I can see that.
they
I
ain't
can
there
see
M.
that. For real.
Like, in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I think it's interesting to think of rap like that, but at the same time, it can be harmful long term because if they can caricature, caricature,
Make them a
if they can
caricature.
make
So,
you a
like,
caricature,
yeah.
caricaturize, if they can make you into a caricature, then they can essentially not just commodify and replicate you, but then they can make you you're now a predictable entity. You are not a threat to the system. You are a cog in it. So if you become predictable, you become a commodity. And so I think that one of the beautiful things about art is the fact that it is creation. It is new. When you have people that are following the rules tit for tat, doing it how they're technically quote unquote supposed to be doing it, you don't get creation. You get people who are soldiers, they're robots. Maybe they execute how you want them to, but there's no flavor there. When you see somebody who is practicing how to dribble versus Kyrie Irving, there's a difference there. Because on one side, you've mastered everything there is to master, and so you're in create mode. On the other side, you're just trying to get down to basics. And so I think the same applies here. And I feel like, I
I
don't
don't
know.
think either side is 100% true, though. Like, is the creation process of a J. Cole and Nas similar to Cardi B and Nicki Minaj? Or 6ix9ine? I put 6ix9ine with them.
Yeah,
Or 6ix9ine. You know what I'm saying? Whose creative process is more similar? There has to be a difference in the origin of the music. Like J. Cole
yeah,
and Nas probably sit down, pen, paper, hand, and write.
yeah,
Mind to pen to paper.
yeah,
Nicki Minaj and Cardi B just show up looking good, get handed some words and hop in the studio, make a video.
yeah.
It's a different creation process. Like
But it's still a creation process. Even if so, let's say
it
that you
is.
are right. I don't think that I don't think that you're. Personally, I feel like Nikki does right, but even if you are right and she doesn't, there is a skill to delivery. In that verse that she had on
Absolutely.
Monster, J. Cole or no, Jay Z came out the booth when after he spit feeling good, right?
It's
He
performance
listened to
art.
Ye's verse
Hmm.
and he was like, "Yeah, this is gonna be this is gonna be a hit." And then Nicki Minaj came through and did her verse, and he said that he looked at Kanye and was like, "Yo, she just bodied both of us."
It's mate, look, it's performance. That's why you can't take nothing from Drake. I don't ghostwriting isn't bad. It's just a certain level of,
This is the yeah,
to me,
mm,
discernment you have to have in music that they're not writing everything.
yeah.
Like Drake can
No, it's facts.
perform, so he can. It's, if I write something and I go perform it on the stage and it's hot, versus if Drake performed what I wrote on the stage.
It's gonna
So
be a million
what's
times.
wrong with Quentin Miller? Maybe he don't got
Yeah.
the delivery, but he got all the pen work. So he give it to
Mm,
Drake, and he in the background making millions, and Drake can be the star. Like this is hip hop. There's nothing wrong with it. But then you always
yeah.
gonna have your J. Cole. You always gonna have your Nas. It's just a different form of. To me, on the spectrum, hip hop is on one side and rap is on the other. If we're talking pure like lyricism, MC on the mic, hip hop, rap, that's the spectrum. How close are you to true creative writing from your own brain and you delivering it out of your mouth? Or are you closer to hip hop, which is the industry, which is a collection of people making a track? There's nothing wrong with it. You know, it's It's just
That's interesting. So you see rap as a different extension of hip hop. Like it's not necessarily the same. Like hip hop is almost, what is that, the origin, or is it like the?
I think rap is the origin. I think rap is the origin.
Well,
Of
historically, that's not correct
what you
because
mean?
historically, so hip hop came before rap
The
in
music, you
terms of
saying the
the
sound, the
lineage,
sound.
because it came before in terms of even from Africa Bambaataa, or if you go by DJ Kool Herc, whichever theory you go by, it started sometime in New York in the 70s in somebody's basement while they were doing a summer party, and it was just flipping back and forth between two different discs.
Mm-hmm.
It was party music, and that was what the origins of hip hop was. It was like disco, funk, and some break beats, and you're mixing it between each other,
What
and
is
you
that?
have
What is
somebody
that
named a
today, though?
DJ.
What is that
But
today?
that's what I'm saying. Like the MC came along later on. The MC was a later development. So it was something that was important, and it was actually probably the most critical part of the evolution of hip hop, which I guess we're already talking about. But that's I think one of the good points we can kind of end with today is this idea of the fact that we are going in a new direction. The fact of the matter is that maybe the future of rap is going to be word centric. Maybe the past was something that was beginning something that we're starting to see today. Some people have theories that the future of music in general is just going to be all instrumentals and no one's going to have any actual sounds. They're just going to have AI generated moods that they want sounds for. Like it's different stuff that can happen. So
Look
the
at it.
written word, go ahead.
Look at it like the back to the political. How was it Democrat? I almost forgot the names. They're so irrelevant. But how the Democrats and Republicans evolved over time, and different people take different sides. I think hip hop as it originated was a sound. It was the music. It was a DJ. It was a party. Boom. Then come the MC. Then evolves MCing and rapping. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But today, as we look at the spectrum of hip hop, through that evolution, I mean, an instrumental is an instrumental. You know what I'm saying? That's just one instrumental. That's very vague. Like that's one thing. But when it comes to actually MCing, rapping, putting lyricism into it, that's why I say the spectrum is in place from hip hop to rap. It's like, are you truly writing your own music and then presenting it as the MC and performing it? Or are you having a collection of people make a track? That's the industry to me. Like that's hip hop industry. And I don't think either or is, right or wrong. They just exist.
That's a
I
good
think
point,
they're
bro.
both good. They're both good.
I don't, we can get into it a little bit more maybe next week when we get into the technology behind hip hop too, because I think that sharing is caring. And what we're going to see in the future of hip hop is going to be a lot more collaboration. We're going to see a lot more by way of having platforms that enable people to collaborate, even if they're halfway across the world from each other. And then from there, what are you going to see in terms of new sounds, new developments, new styles? Who knows? So the future of hip hop, I feel like, is going to be real interesting. Obviously, it started as one thing, it's evolved to become something today. And what the future is, it really is up to us. I think Mos Def said it in one of his albums. Like he always say, people ask me, what's the future of hip hop? He said, y'all decide. I'm not going to decide. You're here listening to, partaking in, being a part of. So really, I feel like that's what I want to end on today. The way hip hop goes forward is based on what we decide to celebrate today. The things that we decide to put our money, our attention, our time into today will determine what is going to be hot tomorrow. And I feel like instead of trying to get people to do what you want them to do, it's more important for you to know what you actually vibe with. And so getting into a place where that truth is hitting you, regardless of if it's quote unquote conscious rap or quote unquote party music, I feel like it's one of those things to where if it's hitting you and it's true, then it's cool. But that's where I'll leave that.